I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. Our next guest came on about a month ago and predicted, there's something big coming down in the precious metals markets. Something big. A big bank is going to cop to manipulating the precious metals markets, i.e. the silver market. And what happened this past week, and here we have it. Deutsche Bank confirms silver market manipulation and legal settlement, agrees to expose other banks. This is the headline I grabbed from Zero Hedge, that they are agreeing to settlement. I went ahead and printed a letter off that goes to the Southern District Judge in New York saying, yes, their law firm says, yes, Deutsche Bank has agreed to settle and expose other banks. It's a real deal. And the person that first came on didn't give the names. I don't even think said it was Europe, but didn't give the names and said, oh, yeah, there's something big coming down. Well, it's Rob Kirby from Kirby Analytics. Thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com. You, sir, can take a bow.
There's no reason to take a bow, Greg, at all. The exposure of this criminal activity in the precious metals markets has been going on for a very, very long time.
Oh, no, it hasn't, Rob. We're all crazy tinfoil hat wearing people. No, we've been told we're nuts.
Well, apparently not so much anymore. And shame on the enablers, the people carrying the water for this manipulation that's been going on probably for at least 20 years in the precious metals markets. And all I can say to you, Greg, if it's happening in silver, it's happening in gold, in spades as well. And this is just the thin edge of the wedge in terms of exposure of this criminal activity. And for all the foolish, moronic naysayers who for years and years have been dismissive and deriding the work of the likes of Chris Powell and Bill Murphy at GATA, who've been documenting and exposing this criminal activity that's been going on for, like I say, for 20 years, and the people who have shilled for the establishment, because this is a game. This rigging of the precious metals is a game that's actually I'm going to say it's Anglo-American centric, but more specifically, the marching orders in the silver and gold price manipulation, the epicenter of it all, and the marching orders come out of the U.S. Treasury and out of the U.S. Federal Reserve. They are the people that actually enact the rigging and give the marching orders to the banks who are now finding themselves caught up in a web that really they were just doing the grunt work for officialdom.
Well, this settlement only mentions HSBC and Bank of Nova Scotia, and I'm thinking, you mean there's no American banks involved? Or maybe that's what it means to expose other banks? Is that what this settlement is saying? That the other shoes are going to drop, and they're going to drop over here?
Well, ultimately, Greg, the price rigging ultimately will come back to be shown that it's really an operation of the U.S. Treasury and the U.S. Federal Reserve. Because you see, Greg, in this world there's a thing called qui bono, or who benefits, and you follow the money. You see, precious metals have historically been the best alternative to fiat money, and the top dog in the world, in the fiat money world, is the U.S. dollar, which is currently the world's reserve currency, meaning that dollars are used to settle all international trade accounts. So the alternative to the dollar right now, because a lot of dollars have been printed, many more on an historic basis have been printed in the last number of years than anybody would have imagined, and this is fertile ground historically for the price of precious metals, both gold and silver, to be bid up. And this has actually been occurring because the demand for precious metals has been going up geometrically over the past 5 or 6 years, 7 years, and the short interest or the paper sales of precious metals has been used on purpose to suppress the growing demand for precious metals, or to make it appear that people are still happy with dollars and don't prefer precious metal to dollars. You see, this is the same thing. This is the same thing that happened. The way history rhymes or repeats itself. Back in the 60s and leading up to the 71 closing of the gold window by President Nixon, America was printing too much money, and they basically were out of control with their spending with regards to what was going on in Southeast Asia with the Vietnamese conflict. And it was France, and it was de Gaulle specifically in France, who ordered France to redeem their dollars, knowing that America was printing too many of them, and he ordered France to redeem their dollars for gold, in the U.S. And of course, this led to hubris on the part of U.S. leadership, saying our dollar is as good as gold. And to which de Gaulle famously answered, "Then give me gold." And you see, America was bleeding their sovereign gold reserves. This was when the London Gold Pool was in effect to cap the price of gold at $35 US per ounce. And basically, it was France who knocked us off that gold standard and forced, in August of 71, forced Nixon to close the gold window, and America basically defaulted and said they'd no longer honor the commitment that they promised, that they would always make the dollar redeemable at $35 for an ounce of gold. Anyway, so that was a default by America, and so just bringing it back to where we are today, this is the reason that the metals have been attacked, because they are the go-to alternative, Greg. They always have been the go-to alternative, and whether a bank or whether a central bank or the U.S. Treasury declares that gold or silver are not money in some hubris-filled silliness, doesn't diminish the fact that gold and silver are money. And your U.S. Constitution actually states that silver is money and gold is money.
Let's get up to the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is coming out here in the next few days. It's going to go live. I know you buy and sell tonnage for people. You don't sell coins. You're not a coin shop. You contract, and you basically get the gold and make sure tons by the ton, and then you get it to your clients. You are the guy that facilitates that. What about the Shanghai Gold Exchange, I believe is what it's called? They're going to basically have a competitor to the Crimex and the LBMA, the two fraudulent pricing institutions for gold. What's going on with that? Is that one of the reasons why they're having these 3-4 meetings, emergency meetings with the president and the Fed and the Board of Governors, and what's going on? What's going down the pipe?
I believe that these events, the official launch of the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is due to launch on the 19th of April, which is next week, and the other thing that I think bears watching and monitoring, Greg, is the Chinese have signed a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with the people that run the payment system called SWIFT. And I mean, you can Google the term SWIFT, and you can read about it's a global payments form for settling global trade, but it's European centric, and it's really up until now the SWIFT method of settling international payments has been largely the secondary means of settling global trade. Because the primary means of settling global trade up until now has been through a U.S.-centric payment platform called the Clearinghouse Interbank Payment System, or CHIPS, and the Fed Wire. And most of global trade is currently settled via payment transfers via chips or via the Fed wire, but with China merging their upstart system called CIP, which is the Chinese interbank payment system, the Chinese appear to be on the verge of merging their interbank payment system with SWIFT, and my gut is telling me that this will very much marginalize America as the arbiter or the main processor of global payments.
What does that mean to the U.S. dollar?
This to me means this could embody, and very likely, in my view, will embody very possibly a global reset in terms of which currency is going to be the world reserve currency, because I have a very, very sneaking suspicion that when China merges with the SWIFT system, I believe that there's a very strong possibility that China's going to back their currency with gold. And I do believe that this is why China has been so aggressively buying the physical gold for the past 10 or 15 years that they've been doing it, is with a view to dislodging the dollar as the world's, or greatly diminishing the dollar as the world's reserve currency. So that's what I think's at play right now, Greg. And I think that U.S. Bankers and regulators have caught wind of this, and they're aware that it's coming. And I do believe that this is the explanation for all their secret squirrel meetings that they've been having. I mean, the notion that on Monday morning the Federal Reserve Board met in secret behind closed doors, and they gave us some frivolous reason why they were meeting, and then the Fed chairman then on Monday afternoon walked over to the White House and met with not just the president, but with the president and vice president, and the notion that the president and vice president would be in the same room at the same time tells you that this is something of very likely, very, very substantially national security related. And I'll just tell you something. If you don't think the preservation of the dollar as the world's reserve currency isn't a national security issue, you better think again. So then the Fed had another secret squirrel meeting on Tuesday morning, following the two meetings behind closed doors on Monday, and then there was yet another one again on Wednesday night. So these central bankers, you see, in my view, Greg, from 30,000 feet, they look like cockroaches that somebody's just shined a flashlight on, and they're scurrying about, trying to do whatever they do to mitigate the damage that they've created. I mean, it's been U.S. policy to suppress the price of precious metals.
All this is all coming down at the same time. I mean, you're having the silver thing revealed, and obviously if they manipulated silver, then you count it, they manipulated gold officially. And then you have the Shanghai Gold Exchange coming on. You have this China bank, this merging with the SWIFT system, and all of a sudden, are you saying that we could have a dramatic and overnight reduction in the value of the dollar?
I think that this is coming in very, very short order now, Greg. To me, the trail of breadcrumbs, it's so pronounced, and it's so indicating that this is what is afoot right now.
And you think that the man on the street is going to say, "What? Gas is $8 a gallon, huh? What? You're going to see that all of a sudden, boom, the dollar's going to be the banks are going to be shut down. They're going to have a holiday, and they're going to revalue all the currency."
Well, I mean, listen, how quickly we move through all of that, Greg, is I would say open for conjecture, but that's the direction we're headed in. In my view, unmistakably we're headed in that direction. And the only real question is how long these criminal central bankers can MacGyver the system and keep it together with elastic bands, paper clips, and bungee cords. But it won't. This is going down. This is going to happen.
You think it's going down? We're not talking about in 2017 or.
No, I think it's going down in the next 2-3 weeks. I think it's going down. You know, we've talked about.
What would they be?
Listen, great, like-minded people to me that I communicate with all over the world, and these are very, very, you know, decorated people, renowned economists, renowned writers, renowned authors and researchers. You know, we've all speculated that this is what would eventually happen. Well, now we're here. The clock's about to strike midnight, and these buffoons who have denied that any of this has been going on. Well, you know what? You know what they've done to their clients, customers, and constituency. They've literally done them such a disservice. And they're going to be all bag holders now. And holding the bag.
And and so the people like the CFTC, after a 5-year investigation, and they shut this thing down, I think in 2013, and went, well, nothing there.
The CFTC should be embarrassed beyond belief.
They should be criminal charges should be put against them.
Yes.
I mean, what are you talking about? This is fraud.
Yes.
It was a fraudulent investigation. 5-year investigation. They came up with nothing. Fraudulent.
It constitutes serious high crimes against humanity in my book.
And the American people. And what about people like Dennis Gartman? Wasn't he one of the on the bandwagon saying, oh, no.
The Jeffrey Christians of the world, the Dennis Gartmans of the world, who for years and years and years said that there was no evidence that the markets were rigged. These are the people who carried the water for these banks that were engaged in this. So, you know, to all those guys, you know, I think they all deserve, you know, to have polka dot suits and red noses now, because they really are the clowns of the financial universe. They are the clowns, and you know, and people should know, or people who've missed this development and what's likely to come in very short order. If they get angry and they want to know who to blame for their lack of being a part of what's going to occur, those are the people they need to thank, because those are the people that carried the water and enabled, and all these wonderful anchors on the major business networks who shilled for this criminality for years and years, and referred to people who were trying to point it out as conspiracy theorists, and you know, it just makes me want to vomit just thinking about these people who gained the trust of the public because they had positions of being talking heads, because they, you know, they had, and it's so sad, it's dark. And it's dark.
Let's connect some dots here. Here we have the buzzing of Russian planes of U.S. Military Navy. You know, and we have reports of that. We have reports. These are bona fide reports of Chinese nuclear submarines, and they wouldn't want this out unless they wanted it out on the west coast of the United States. This is all in preparation for this exposure by Deutsche Bank, and they're going to expose other banks, and the Chinese, the CIP, merging with the SWIFT system, and all these meetings with the Fed. You're saying all this stuff appears to be interconnected because something is powerful wrong, and something's going to happen soon.
That's what I'm thinking.
What would they just pretend that you're in the Fed meeting and Rob Kirby was invited to the meeting, and what would you be hearing the board of governors, or what would you be hearing Yellen telling the president and vice president? You're just sitting back there on the other side of the president's desk, and you're one of his consultants. And what do you think Yellen would be telling the president and vice president right now? What do you think she'd be telling?
My guess is that they're probably explaining to them just how deep the poo is that they're about to be thrown into, and they're probably talking about, well, how deep is it? And it's deep, and it's going to be over their head. And
you think that the poo that you're talking about is a dramatic reduction in the value of the dollar, which will damage America's ability to project its power around the world?
I do believe so. I think it's of the time to happen now. we're at the 0 hour where this is going to get unrolled or unfurled. It's coming. Anybody who's ignoring what's going on, I'll just tell you something. Get your head out of the sand. This is coming. And it's we're locked and loaded here.
And what do you suppose they're going to do now? I mean, I have long said that they're at some point either they're going to gun it and they're going to blow the tranny. They're going up the hill and it's slipping, or they're going to blow the motor, or that, or they're going to gun, or they're flying over and they're losing altitude and they're looking for a field to control crash. Either way, what do you suppose they're going to do to try to control this crash?
My thoughts can get very dark when I think about.
Let's hear them.
Historically, Greg, when banks have nothing else they can do, they take us to war. So, does that mean we're going to have, a world war? Are we going to have a nuclear war? If that's what they really have in store for us, I mean, there's an awful lot of people in and around the U.S. administration who talk in terms of being able to win a nuclear war. I don't think there's any winners in a nuclear war myself, and I hope and pray that that's not what they're going to do. But you see, my feeling is that the people that have seized power in America are a group of globalists who have no heart, no soul. They have no allegiance to America. America's not run by Americans anymore. I mean, look at the absolutely preposterous antics that are going on in the electoral process right now in America.
Yeah,
America clearly is not run by Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they don't care who the American people want to be their representative or be their leader. They've canceled caucuses and primaries in how many states already? The will of the people is being ignored. And I'll just tell you something. That isn't going to stand. Because you know what? Americans care about their Constitution. Americans care about their country. And I know an awful lot of Americans who are patriots. And they're not going to stand for what's going on, the shenanigans that are going on in your political process.
Short of nuclear war, walk us through what the banks might do. I mean, this is why the Russians are buzzing our ships. This is why the Chinese put their nuclear, armed submarines off our coast. Say, don't you try it. So, what do you suppose the Federal Reserve would do to the banking system if they wanted to try to do this in a non-nuclear war way?
Boy, I mean, at some point,
would we have bank holidays? Bail-ins?
I think the likelihood of that is, I think everything's on the table, and whether we end up with bank holidays or whether we end up with even more money printing. You see, my thinking is that at some point there's going to be an awful lot of U.S. dollars that are held in World Reserve accounts right now that are going to be coming home to America. And when they come home to America, there's quite a number of dollars that are held in global reserve accounts. And if they're able to make a very, very substantial impact with, for instance, the rise of the Chinese currency almost on an overnight basis because it gains or it gets gold backing, the adjustment in global reserve accounts could create a tsunami of dollars coming back to America in a very, very short period of time, and that could absolutely trigger something approaching a hyperinflationary event, or certainly stagflation, super, super stiff inflationary pressure. So that's the minimum that I see occurring relatively soon.
And do you think that they would have a lot of bond defaults? I mean, right now we have officially Puerto Rico, and you're in Canada, and but they're running these commercials. I'm seeing, don't let the U.S. Congress bail out Puerto Rico. Well, they're not bailing them out. They're going to let them go Chapter 9. And when a municipality goes Chapter 9, you can't come take their skating rink and their parks and their ports and their parking garages. You can't have that. And then we're talking $70 billion just for Puerto Rico. I mean, this is like Connecticut or Delaware going under.
Well, you know what, Greg? The sad part about all this is what you're really talking about is really, it gets back to a function of accounting, and because you're talking about whether entities are solvent or insolvent or bankrupt or able to continue operations. Well, there's a thing called accounting that is the means by which you measure whether an entity is solvent or insolvent. But there's a law on the books that was put on your books in America in 1934, and the law goes that in its current incarnation that the intelligence czar in America has the ability to grant publicly traded companies that trade on the stock exchange, like the banks like J.P. Morgan,
Bank of America
and Citibank, that if the intelligence czar deems that it's in the interest of national security, they can grant a company a waiver whereby they can effectively have no accounting. They don't have to report their true financial condition, which means they're allowed to lie, which means that if they're questioned by regulators and it's determined to be in the interest of national security, they can lie about whether they're solvent or insolvent, and they effectively stop having accounting. So how do you determine whether an entity is solvent or insolvent or bankrupt if they don't have accounting?
Back to your thing, gold. I want to close with gold because it's one of your strong suits, not just macro analytics, macro economy. That's what you say on your website. But you buy and sell gold by the ton. What are your sources who are buying gold by the ton, telling you about what's coming down?
Listen. My sources have been in my view, have been actively engaged in this transition that I believe is occurring in front of us, and that's where I think their attention has been in the very recent. I haven't been told that. I have not been told that definitively, but that's what I believe is going on behind the curtain.
And what does this mean for the dollar price of gold soon? You're saying that you could wake up and gold could double, triple. Is that what you're saying?
I think I'm going to live to see the day, Greg, when you cannot buy an ounce of gold with U.S. dollars. So you tell me what that translates into.
And people that are waiting for the price to go down for their gold and their silver, what would you tell them about personally securing your own little central bank hoard of precious metals? Well, I mean, do you make haste or do you have time?
I have maintained for the last 10 years there's no such thing as a bad day to buy a physical precious metal. As you know, as I've said, anytime I've ever been with you, I don't believe in owning the paper proxies. If you don't own your precious metal, if you can't physically go touch it, you might as well not have it, because at the end of the day, it's whether you got it in your possession. So that's what you need to do, and if you haven't done it yet, I think time is very, very, very short for anybody to have the opportunity to be able to acquire it. So that's where I think we're headed.
Rob Kirby, KirbyAnalytics.com. You put out, and I'll put your page up, but you have some free information, at least the beginnings of articles and stuff, which is kind of telling. It gives us some free information. Also, but you have a subscription service. It's $149 a year.
It's $145 a year, Greg, and I communicate with my subscribers on a direct mail basis.
And also, you can buy half a year for $89.
No,
$145 a year.
Okay. 1 year option.
1 year option, $145 a year. Rob Kirby, wow, this is the kind of stuff that you put on to your subscribers on an ongoing basis. That's great stuff, man. And I really appreciate you coming on and giving it to the USAWatchdog.com viewers and subscribers, not subscribers, but the visitors at USA Watchdog and the viewers at the USA Watchdog YouTube channel. And folks, for you YouTubers, after the interview, I'll put links to Rob Kirby's KirbyAnalytics.com and to his subscription page. So thank you, Rob Kirby, for coming on USAWatchdog.com.
Pleasure to be with you, Greg.